Hey guys, ECRG here, back with another episode. As you can see by the title of today's episode, I'm talking about the time that a PI yelled at me, literally screamed at me. So guys, I just want to let you guys know, being a CRA is not just easy going. It is not just, models and bottles as I like to call it. The travel, first class upgrades, drinking mimosas in first class, getting all the snack carts, getting upgraded to penthouse suites. All this stuff does happen as a CRA, but it's not all that. It's not going 5-star restaurants and all that stuff. It's not all that, going to the beach in the middle of the day while all your friends are working in the cubicles. It's not all that all the time. There's lots of stress. So this kind of goes into the point why this is not an entry-level job. A lot of people think, and I know a lot of people on YouTube, including myself, have probably not done a great enough job, or even the pharmaceutical and CRO industry themselves in terms of when they list jobs. They have not done such a great job explaining that a CRA is not an entry-level, no experience job. This is for someone who has had some experience, a couple years of experience in the industry. You've got to know how clinical research works. You've got to know how it all works together, all the stakeholders, and how it all is connected together like a puzzle. Before you can be a successful CRA in my eyes. And this kind of goes into why I think study coordinators end up making the best CRAs, because they are very, very well versed in interacting with the research staff, considering they've been research staff before. They know how to interact with the PIs. They know how to interact with the sub-Is. They know how to interact with the CRA. They know how to interact with the sponsor. They know all of these things already. So that's why I think study coordinators end up making the best CRAs or in-house CRAs. But guys, someone who doesn't have experience as in the industry is not going to know how to deal with a PI yelling at you, because the PI is a very integral person in the research team. A lot of times these sponsors use the same PIs over and over, so they are very, very familiar with the executives at these companies. They are very, very familiar with the higher level ups, especially when you're working in small to mid-sized pharma. So you've got to be very, very careful when you're dealing with the PI. Because even though they don't do a ton of stuff when it comes to the actual day-to-day operations of the research, they're very, very influential, and you can't do the research without them because they are important in overseeing safety. And ultimately, the buck stops with them. They are the boss of the site, even though the study coordinator does everything pretty much. But yeah, guys. So one day I get a call from the PI. I asked him about Metadata Rave. So shout out to Metadata Rave. I haven't had many complaints from other PIs regarding Metadata Rave or from people in general. I think it's one of those systems that it's not super sexy. It's not super fancy. It just works. It's just reliable and it works. So he calls me, and this is a PI that, is on a lot of studies. He has a lot of studies. This is one of his main gigs he does in the research industry, is being a PI. So he calls me because I had reached out because I needed him to log into Metadata Rave and sign off on a subject. So pretty much this happens at the end when all the data has been reviewed by the CRA. It's been reviewed by data management. They've done their thing. And what has to happen is the PI has to then go into the database and electronically sign off saying, I certify all of these results, all of these inputs are accurate and conducted according to the protocol to the best of my ability. That's basically what he's saying when he signs off. So every PI does this. They have to go into Metadata Rave and sign off. But of course, this is the open label extension study. So there was a study before that. And of course, with each new study, you have to do new training. So there's nothing that a PI hates more than having to do a task and having to get trained beforehand because it takes more time. So he calls me up on the phone and he's like, I hate Metadata Rave. I don't understand how every time I have to go into Metadata Rave, I have to do new training and I have to do all this. I can't believe why you guys are using Metadata Rave, and I want you guys to stop using Metadata Rave. And, if every time I come into Metadata Rave, I have to do new training and it just takes so much time, then, I'm not going to be involved with you guys on doing studies anymore. So he is just going off on me. And I'm like, dude, I mean, at the end of the day, you can just click through this training. You don't have to actually sit there and take it. Just click the buttons, man. Especially because you've done it before for previous studies. So I know you know what to do in Metadata Rave. So he's going off on me, da 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 da. And I'm just like, I understand. You're frustrated, and I know time is of the essence for you, and we don't want you to spend more time. But like I was basically just telling him, like, you can just click through the buttons. I don't need you to actually sit there and do the training because I know you already have done the training. And he's just going off and off. So the best thing you can do in that situation is just agree with him. I'm like, look, I agree with you. I don't understand why you have to do all these trainings because you've already done it a couple times. But it's a different study, so they're going to want to see the training form for that specifically says for that study. He's just going on and on and on, and I understand it's a difficult time right now because this was happening during the coronavirus epidemic. So, I just agree with them and try to calm him down a little bit, and eventually he did sign off. He did what I asked him to do, and I told him, you actually did it, so that's all we need from you, so you've done what you need to do. And that was that. But I mean, a lot of people would freak out. I mean, I was kind of freaking out in that situation too, because he was visibly angry. And there are stories of PIs going over the CRA's head and contacting, executives in the company before and saying, I don't want to work with this CRA anymore, blah, 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 blah. Of course, it's not my fault. It's Metadata's policy. It's all automated. If you don't have the right training, they're going to make you do the training before you can log in and sign off. And I don't think, clearly it hadn't been done yet because, they made him do it. But this type of stuff happens, guys. How are you going to act? And typically it's people with more experience that are able to act in a good way. And even he was saying, I know it's not you who's asking me to do this, but, he was just venting. He was just venting his frustration. So sometimes you just got to be the punching bag for PIs because you do not want to get on their bad side, especially when they have a history of kind of going above your head and, I don't want to say snitching, but, telling on the executives on you and saying, I don't want to work with this person anymore. I don't want to work with this CRA anymore. And, oftentimes they'll switch you to another PI. So you just try to do your best to manage the relationship the best you can. So that's what you can do. So, the PI yelled at me. That was the first time, hopefully the last time. I know it won't be the last time, but hopefully. But I got to say, this is one of those sites where the people are hard to get in touch with. And this is one of the sites I was recently transferred. So, I don't have that great of a relationship with them yet. I haven't been working with them for years and years yet. So hopefully over time we can build that relationship. But, it's just the type of thing that can happen. So how are you prepared for having a PI yell at you? Are you prepared for them venting that frustration at you? How are you going to act? Comment down below in the comments. And as always, guys, if you're listening on YouTube, subscribe. If you're listening on podcast, subscribe. If you're listening on podcast, please leave us a review. Tell us how much you enjoy the podcast, how much you enjoy listening to us, because it's those type of things that keep us going. If you're interested, if you love this content, please subscribe, like, share with all your friends and people you think would benefit. As always, guys, stay safe and email me eliteclinicalgroup@gmail.com if you have any questions. Take care.